You may be thinking to yourself, man, she coded that fast. But here's the deal. This is something you should already know how to do. And if you don't know how to do, that's okay. It was a little crash course for you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add in those boxes on the side. The boxes on the side are a little bit more complicated because you've got content and content, and you're kind of floating things next to each other. So if you recall back from Digital Design 1, we learned how to float things side by side to be able to go ahead and push them across the page. Now, the order that these are written and what they are doing is important, but what we're going to do is create two div tags. We're going to create a div tag here and a div tag here. Now, could you use other semantic elements like article and aside so that you can navigate them around? Yeah, you could. But in this case, I want to teach you how to use div tags that are doing two different things, because one's going to be on the left and one's going to be on the right, which means they're doing different stuff. So to do this, what we're going to do is first we're going to write these in order. So after your nav, we're going to put a div here, and we're going to call this left content. So we know what it's going to do. And then we're going to close the div. Now, div, remember, stands for division because it's a division in the page. It's a portion of the page. I'm then going to go after the main tag, and I'm going to put another div tag. And this one's going to be called right content. And I'm going to go ahead and close the div there. That then puts boxes above and below my main content. But the next question is, how do I get them to float side by side and exist? I want them to be the same height of the main, and I'm going to give them a different background color so they actually show. So I'm going to take my main tag, copy it, and go down to the bottom, and I'm going to paste it to say div. My background color, I'm going to go ahead and make be pink, so that way I can see it next to everything, and it's got a height of 300. We then need to start thinking about our width. Now, looking at this image, I want it to span the 100% width of the page, and I want my main content to take up about 75% or 70% of the page. So 70% of the page is here. Let's take 30 and 30, divide it by 2, that'd be 15% of the page and 15% of the page. So now it's time to set some widths. We're going to go to main, and we're going to set a width, like I said, of, let's say, 70% of the page, because you can remember do it in percentages as well. And then our div tags, each one is going to have a width of 15%, which means with the two div tags together will equal 30%, which means that they will take up 30% of the page, and the main content will take up 70% of the page, equaling 100. All right, so now we've got them sitting here. They've got the heights that they need, the widths that they need, but it's time to get them to sit side by side. So this is reminding you about the rubber duckies in the bathtub. If I had two rubber duckies in a bathtub and I wanted them to sit side by side, the issue is that once I place them in the bathtub, they float away from each other all the way to the edge of the page. Our goal is to keep them together and have them sit side by side but float together. So what we're going to do is we need to first contain all three. So you have left content, main content, and right content. Those are all going to float side by side, which means we want to contain those together. To contain them, we're going to put them in a box together. So before your first div, but after your last div, we're going to put all of these inside of another semantic element tag called a section. So we're going to go ahead and put a section here, and then we're going to close our section here. We're then going to take all three tags on line 4, 5, and 6, div, main, and div, and tab them inward so we know they sit inside the section. Now time to start floating. So the main tag, if you think about it, is going to actually go ahead and float to the right because it's floating to the right side of the page. It's not sitting on the left margin. You also need your right content div tag to float to the right as well, and your left content div tag to float to the left. So what we're going to do is float this main tag to the right, and that will then float it over. You'll see that right content and left content are now sitting on the left margin. Main content is now floating off to the right. I'm then going to go down to div, and this is where you can have an issue, because if you think about it, if I set the float here to be, let's say, left, because we're focusing on the left content box, I'm now floated to the left, but my left, right, and main are not in the right order. I need my left and my right to do two different things. I need my left content box to float to the left, while my right content box floats to the right, sitting after the main tag. So now I need the div tag in the CSS to do two different things. This is where we need to start working with classes.